So I recently had a client who was going to purchase some new construction. I had done a deal with this big bank before. It went very smooth, went very good. So I didn't really try to get him to shop at anywhere else. He decided he was going to stick with them because they did a really good job on his first house. So I had no issue with that. And again, this is a very, very large bank. I'm not going to say any names, but there was a ton of issues. And this happens a lot with these big banks because they have a lot of automated systems, and also it seems like their people just aren't as proactive or caring as a local lender. And I think the number one big reason for that is because if you talk bad on their name, or you tell people not to use them, it doesn't affect them as much as a local lender to your market because they don't have a reputation to kill. This bank probably does hundreds of mortgages a day. Me saying or telling other agents in my market, hey, don't use them, isn't going to hurt their market share very much. And that's why you really want to go with the local lender, because they have a reputation to keep in the industry and in the area. So back to the story on this one, we go under contract. Normally with new construction, the builder reaches out to the lender to order the appraisal. That did not happen on this one. The lender decided to go ahead and order the appraisal and get it scheduled right away. They did that. The appraiser gets out there. The house is not completed. I had no clue about this. My buyer had no clue about this. Nobody had any clue about it. We get word back, hey, the appraisal came in. I respond back, hey, are we good to go? I just want to know, did we meet value? Yep, we're good to go. It met value. Perfect. So fast forward another 2 weeks. We're doing our first walkthrough. So when you buy new construction, you do 2 different walkthroughs. The first one is to do the little blue tape, go through, mark anything that's messed up or rough, and then the second one, they make sure they fixed it all. So we're doing the first walkthrough 2 weeks before closing. We get the clear to close. I'm like, hey man, we just got the clear to close. That's awesome. We're way ahead of schedule. Perfect. We're looking really good. Do our walkthrough. Everything goes great. The week before closing, Tuesday, I reach out to the lender. Hey, I just wanted to touch base, see where we're at on getting the numbers done so my client could send the wire. We're closing the following Monday, so we have that weekend. So the wire needs to really be out by Friday, early Friday, to make sure it's there by Monday. No response. Wednesday, we send the same email. No response. So I decided to call the loan officer. Loan officer's like, dude, we're good. We still, we're not closing until Monday. I have no worries in the world. We're going to start working on this soon. Just not yet, but it's a week away still. It's almost a week away. We're good. And I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure we can get this wire out in time for closing. Fast forward to then Thursday, we still don't have any numbers. He says, hey, our closing department's working on it now. Fantastic. Friday comes around. Title says, hey, they finally reached out. We're balancing. We should have numbers in today. Perfect. So then the bank finally gives my client a number. Doesn't send out the final closing disclosure, which is weird. Title said they didn't have final numbers, which threw up some red flags in my brain. But I'm like, okay, we're still a couple hours away from the end of the day. Let's see where things end up. About 3:30, my client calls me. He says, hey, we have an issue. And I say, huh? He's like, the bank messed up. There needed to be a second appraisal and it never got ordered. So I'm like, okay, let me call the bank. Call the bank, and they're basically like, yeah, it just totally slipped through the cracks. We didn't know. We thought it got ordered. It didn't get ordered. And I'm like, as an agent, once we get that clear to close, as long as my client doesn't take out any more credit or anything happen in the house, we should be good in my book. We're pretty much concrete. So I'm like, we had the clear to close. What do you mean? She's like, well, yeah, they just missed it. They forgot about it. She's like, but the appraiser's going to be out there tonight. Now, it's 3:30 on a Friday. So the earliest the appraiser's getting out there is like 4:30. And in my brain, I've done enough deals where I know appraisers, I know how they work, and I also don't expect them to drop everything on Friday at 4 to go see a house. In my head is throwing up red flags like, yeah, there's no way this appraiser's going to be out there. But with new construction, they don't put lock boxes on them. The builder rep has to unlock it. So the builder rep goes out there, unlocks it, and then I go and sit from about 4 o'clock until 6:30 with my client. No appraiser ever shows up. And at this point, as an agent, you just have to be the steady hand in the whole transaction. So at 6:30, I'm locking up the house. We're getting ready to leave. I'm like, dude, there is nothing we're going to be able to do over this weekend. They're not open. They're not going to be helping. The appraiser's not going to come out. Go home. Enjoy your time. And my client was working in Chicago and lived in Toledo, so he was back and forth away from his family for a lot. So I was like, dude, just go home, enjoy some family time, and we will get this. And again, we're supposed to close at noon on Monday, and the bank scheduled that when we got the clear to close without asking anybody else. And it's, anticipating this closing. So Saturday rolls around, finally get the loan officer back on the phone. He's like, yep, we've got the list. He emails me over the list of repairs because we didn't know we needed to make any repairs. Most of them were done with the completed construction, but there was a little gap that needed caulking. So I shoot that over to the builder, and he's like, dude, our construction guys don't work the weekends, but we'll get this done as soon as possible on Monday. So I'm just praying at this point that the appraiser does not go out there this weekend, because that repair's not going to be done, and we're going to get flagged and then have to do this all over again. Monday rolls around. We're supposed to be closing, right? It's supposed to be closing day. Everybody's supposed to be happy. We still don't have the clear to close again. So we go to do our second walkthrough. This is the one right before closing. And prior to that, I had called the lender to see when the appraiser was going to be out there, called the supervising manager, and then also the loan officer. Loan officer got back to me. He said, hey, 9 o'clock. So then I called the builder rep, and he's like, I just talked to her. She's like, I just talked to her. She said 10 o'clock. I'm like, okay, as long as it's sometime in the morning, it's fine. I just want to be done with this. We go through our walkthrough. We make sure that they did the rest of the repairs. About 10:45, the appraiser gets out there, so we take off. Appraisers don't like to talk to us just because it can be a conflict of interest, which I definitely understand. So we take off about 1 o'clock. So we've already pushed closing until 5 that night. 1 o'clock, we get word, hey, the appraisal came back in. It looks like there was, we're going to get this reviewed by underwriting, and then we should be good to go for a 5 o'clock closing. So at this point, they're still promising a 5 o'clock closing. About 3 o'clock rolls around, and they're like, hey, we've got issues on the appraisal. They didn't put 2 specific dates on it. So I call the builder, and I'm like, hey, I know you've talked to the appraiser. Is there any way you can contact them and have them jump on this right away? She calls them, boom, they should be getting it done. I get a call back from her, and the appraiser says, we have no request right now. We can't even touch the appraisal because it says it's an approved status. So then I get the lender back on the phone, and again, we're creeping up on like 4:30 at this point. And the lender's like, dude, I can't do anything. I've tried talking to everybody. Nobody knows. And I'm like, this isn't a good answer. This isn't the answer that I want or my client wants at this point. And he's got a lot riding on this. He's taken away from work, from family. They drove 2 hours in. Like, we need to get this closed out today. Doesn't happen. But I set us up for a good Tuesday, hopefully. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, hey, look, I pushed really hard. Should be able to close this out Tuesday. I have a very good feeling about it. So Tuesday morning rolls around. And we're kind of back to the same point. The appraiser gets their stuff fixed. They were able to get back in there, get that fixed, get it back over to the team at the bank to review the appraisal. Then comes up another issue. With new construction, they normally do an escrow holdback. Normally this escrow holdback agreement is signed at closing. I haven't had one where they sign it beforehand. Chase wanted a signed escrow holdback agreement prior to closing. So I rush with the builder, we get it written up, get it signed, get it over them within 30 minutes. After that, it's just call after call after call, checking in where we are. We're gonna be closing today, are we gonna be closing today? Does not happen. They keep insisting that they're pushing, they're trying to push everything through, and I don't know what, but their underwriters and their closing department were just super slow. And I don't know where they went wrong on that. Come over to Wednesday. Wednesday, we are looking good. We are going to be closing today, 100%. So we get to closing at 1 o'clock for 1 o'clock closing. So pretty decent time. Get there, I got my gift for my client. Everybody's happy. Then I talked to the title company. They still haven't received the closing package from Chase. Now again, we were supposed to close on Monday. We got the escrow holdback agreement in and signed the day prior. There's nothing else we should be waiting on at this point. Finally, they send the documents. Luckily, my client was smart. When he wired the first time on Friday, he wired $2,000 over what they asked for, because they bumped his escrow up by Wednesday because we went into a new month, up by $2,000. So luckily we had the money on hand to do that, but if not, he would have had to gone to Chase, pulled out the extra $2,000, brought it to closing. It would have been a whole nother mess. So anyway, we're there, we've got all the money, they've got the package, we're good to go. Sign, sign, sign. Boom, we're done, we're closed. Then the closer walks back in. We still haven't received the funds. The bank needs to review all of the closing documents prior to releasing the wire. And in my brain, I'm like, I've never had this happen, where we have to wait. So then we're waiting. No word from Chase, no word on anything. Waiting, waiting, waiting. I start what I call the call hammer, which is a call every 10 minutes to the lender, because at this point, I'm done. I'm fighting for my client. We need to get this thing done. They need to get out of here. They brought a moving truck. What are we waiting on? Turns out that they had messed up the zip code and then also messed up the numbers on the CD with the closing disclosure, or with the escrow holdback. So then we have to go have him sign some stuff, get it back over to him. We were in that closing for 3 hours. We were done signing within the first 30 minutes. So people, if you want to use a big bank because you think it's going to be a smooth operation, it may be, it very well could be, but I know there are a ton of horror stories out there about people using big banks. Mostly communication is where they lack. So thank you guys for watching.